What's happening, everybody? Welcome to episode 1 of the Lake Monster Rodcast. Today I'm going to go over my top 6 best beginner lures. I want to tell you the criteria that I had for these lures. First one was I wanted to make sure that they were easy to find just about anywhere. Number 2, I wanted to make sure they were cheap, something that a beginner wouldn't want to throw down a whole lot of money for. And number 3, I tried to all make these things that you could get at a Walmart. The reason being is that not everyone lives close to something like a Bass Pro. The closest Bass Pro to me is like over 2 hours away. But there's a Walmart that's literally like 2 minutes away, and that's at most somebody's going to be 30 minutes from a Walmart. Alright, so let's get started. The first thing I have here is this guy right here is your Booya Frog. Now you notice the legs on this one are skirt strings. I do like the skirt string. It makes really cool vibrations in the water. Some people cut these, but I don't, because if you leave them long, it has some really awesome vibration going on. I was just using this one actually earlier today, caught me pretty good sized bass on it, and one thing I was noticing when it was going through the water is the awesome waves that were made behind it whenever you just reeled it in. And don't get me wrong, you can add some action to it or whatnot. For the most part, those vibrations are about the only thing that I do to it as far as like throwing it out, reeling it in. That's the Booya Frog. This right here is called the Scum Frog. This is more classic look. I just wanted to show it off. It's got the paddle tails on it. I don't know if Walmart sells this particular model or not. This one I got at Dick's Sporting Goods. But I really do like the paddle tails. They're a lot better for making some louder vibrations if you want something like that. Number 2, and this item right here is going to be something that you will find in just about any old guy's tackle box in the world, because these things have a legacy to them, and that is the purple ribbon tail worm. Now this particular one I have in front of me is made by Zoom. I've got another one here that doesn't have a name brand on it, but I just wanted to show you the size comparison of these. Now this one's got a little shinier belly on it, but for the most part it's the same. This one actually has some shines, but you can't really see it. The reason I wanted to show these off is I just wanted to tell you that if I was just going into it, I would definitely go with this guy here, the longer one. Because here's the thing about the two of these. As far as the tail goes, let's put them tail to tail. The tails are really, this one's just a hair longer, but for the most part they're the same size. So the only thing that's different is the actual body. And if you wanted to make this one any shorter, you could just cut it to any length and leave the tail alone. Go for the biggest ones you can get. Like I said, Zoom here makes some really awesome long ones, and the longer the better, because that long tail on it is going to look awesome in the water. Very good bass bait. All right, number 3 here I have is the Rebel crawfish. Now this is what I call Old Faithful. I was using this earlier today, and caught also another good sized bass. The cool thing about the Rebel crawfish, and the reason why I like it, is this is the perfect transitional lure. I honestly think this is the best first artificial bait that anyone can have, because bluegill love it. I've caught catfish on it. I've caught bass on it. This is one of the best lures on the market. Does super well. They're really cheap. I think this one's like $4 or $5. It's usually got 2 treble hooks on it, and they're super sticky. Like you cannot help but catch fish with this thing. Those things, I've caught bass and bluegill and hooked them 3 or 4 times with those 2 treble hooks. Very good. And the size, don't let the size fool you. I've caught plenty of big fish on it too. So love the Rebel crawfish. It's my favorite lure of all time. Number 3 on my list is this guy right here. Now I have lots of different names for this. For the longest time I called it a rooster tail, but I know that's not really what it is. I usually just refer to them as feathertail jigs. But here's why I love this guy right here. You can go to Walmart and get a pack of 10 of these for $1. Late spring, early summer, whenever it's still a little cool outside, it's perfect for that, because it's great for when bass are kind of aggressive and they're willing to chase after something. But they're not in the warm waters yet. Just a good all-around bait, and it is great for catching bass. You will catch a crappie or 2 on it, but for the most part, I stick to bass with it. Here's a cool little tip for you. What ends up happening with these things is they get bit so much that this yellow part right here will come off. Once those skirts start to come off, all you have to do is take your little tube jig like this one right here, put on it, and it's good as new. You can't talk about beginner lures without mentioning the Senko. I went ahead and hooked this one up so you could see how it works. This is called Wacky Rigging. It's a very easy process. I'll show you how to do it. This is how I was taught to do it. Some people may do it differently. You take it and you bend it over itself so you can find the center. And the center as best as you can. And there's two ways you can do it. You can just leave it like that. I do that sometimes. Or you can, this is called weedless wacky rigging. And that's where you take it and you fold it over itself. And this is one of the greatest beginner rigs in the world. Super easy to use. There's all kinds of instructions on the internet on how to do it. You can drop shot it, but if you're a beginner, I'll tell you what I advise you do is just take this guy right here, tie it on, let it sink to the bottom. When it goes to the bottom, let it sit there for a couple of seconds and then do 2 good jerks. And what that's going to do is it's going to look like this in the water. See how much action you get right here. And then just let it sink back down. And more often than not, I've fished with this thing a lot, and I would say probably 2 out of the 3 bites that I get on it, I get on the drop down when you first cast it in. Bass just love that first cast in. This is a great winter time and late, early mid-fall and early winter rig. You can even use it on into winter, but is really good for whenever fish are just being lazy. Some people call it finesse fishing. I'll talk more about that in another video because I don't like using the word finesse fishing. Where I'm from, we just call it fishing. This video was going to be the top 5 lures for beginners, but I just couldn't help but put this guy in there. It's one of my favorite lures, and it's one of my dad's favorite lures. And that is the Zoom Fluke. I keep using the term Zoom. That's just because that's what brands I happen to have. I'm not loyal to that brand at all. But Zoom, the reason I say that about the Fluke is they were the original. Was the Fluke. The reason we call these Flukes is because of Zoom. I should show you how to rig these, because you do Texas rig them, but it's a little different than you do some other Texas rigs. Put it straight through the nose, all the way, and you'll see here it's got little flaps here. You go all the way through the flaps, push it down, flip it, and then come back through. There's all kinds of videos on YouTube on how to do that, and the different ways you hook it will make it swim differently. The reason why this would be more complicated than some of the other lures I use, mostly everything else here, it's real simple. You just throw it out and you bring it back, and you throw it out and you bring it back. This guy right here, he does require a little bit of experience, but to be honest, you pick it up super quickly. All you got to do with a Fluke, throw it out, let it sink to the bottom. I don't let mine sink all the way to the bottom. Some people let them sink all the way to the bottom. I usually let them sink just a little ways down, and then all you got to do is jerk it and reel. And you can do different sorts of patterns with that. Really, it's a summertime lure. Whenever the water's pretty warm and the bass are moving around, you can definitely fish the early to mid-spring with it. Mid and late spring's perfect, but early spring, whenever the weather's still a little cool outside, I've used this, and you have to work it a lot slower. Be real slow with it, but the bass will chase after that thing. I've caught plenty of bass in early spring with it. It is a fast lure, but bass will come after it even in the cold weather. So there you have it. Buy these 6 baits. Will cost you less than $20, I'd say, and could truly be the only bait in your tackle box and last you for a lifetime. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please subscribe. There's going to be new videos every week. I'm going to have some videos up here pretty soon of me actually out fishing rather than just talking to you about fishing. So if you're into that, then please subscribe. Get out there. Catch you on